Hi, my name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network, Woman of Inspiration Awards, and this is the Woman of Inspiration podcast, where we speak with women who are leading, inspiring, and motivating others to dream big. We're speaking with women who are ignoring the naysayers and taking the road less traveled. And definitely one of the trailblazers I'm so excited to be interviewing today is Miss Sarah Hawco. She is the co-founder of Hawco Peters and Associates in Calgary. And you are, I don't know when you find time to sleep, Sarah. You've got your hands in so many different things and you rock every single one of them, from your fitness to your practice to, to being an advocate for women. We're so proud to have you part of our 100 Women of Inspiration book as a contributor. You were also a 2019 Woman of Inspiration Nest Award recipient, and we'll talk about that award and why it's so important. So welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, I look at all of the incredible accomplishments and designations that you've acquired. You're a powerhouse. First off, for the listeners that don't know your background and your story, how did you get to be where you are today? What motivates you?
What motivates me is trying to be the very best I can be, trying to be better than I was yesterday, trying to not just be an example for my daughters, but be an example for myself. You and I know each other reasonably well and have some shared background and experiences, but there was a time in my life that I wasn't sure I was going to have much of a life. And when I got out of that mess, I just thought, this is it. And I'm not wasting any more time. So anyone who told me that I couldn't or I can't was like, you just watch. So for a number of years, my motivation was probably fueled by just anger, and I was mad at myself and I was mad at men, and I was just mad. So I just wanted to prove everyone wrong and go like a bull through everything. And the last few years, I've been trying to rechannel that into letting gratitude be my driver instead. So leading with gratitude while still trying to make a change. I had a lot of things go wrong for me, and I had a heck of a lot of things go right for me, whether that was earned or otherwise. It was just, we've talked about happenstance because simple things that you and I have. I'm white, I speak English, I kind of know the system. I re-entered a workforce I knew how to navigate, and I re-entered a culture I knew how to navigate, and I didn't have the barriers that other people did. So similar to you, part of my drive is to use my privilege to the best of my ability to help break down those barriers for others and make success available for anyone, regardless of what their chosen thing is.
Mm. And that's what I love about you're so tenacious and in a most positive way. Like tenacity and ambition are sometimes words that people are kind of used as like negative, but I think they're totally empowering, and love to see women that are really owning their story and fearless and totally badass, because like you are badass. And I know that you own that. You love that
I
word.
am badass. Yeah.
But I think what I love most about you, and we've had so many conversations, Sarah, was that if people look at you and all of your accomplishments, they find it very interesting to find out that you were in a situation that was abusive. And how did you get into that situation? Right. And women that are listening, are like, I'm smart, I'm capable, I'm driven. And how is it that women that have everything going for them end up in situations like that?
I asked myself that for about 8 years while I was in it. How did this happen? But you and I have discussed in the past, and we see these statistics, but we don't always personalize them. If we consider that the statistics tell us that 1 in 3 women are in or have been in an abusive situation, we all know someone. We all know someone. So someone from my background, for example, I was educated, I had a nice upbringing, I was independent. So I wasn't the stereotype in my head of what an abused woman looked like. However, I'm actually exactly what one, subset of a woman in an abusive relationship is. And I've used the example before of the female physician who was murdered by her husband in Toronto, probably 2 summers ago, maybe it's 3 now. And people are like, how did this happen? Right? Why do you stay? Well, it's far more layered than that. It's not just financial, it's not just poor self-esteem, it's far more complicated, especially with kids being involved. And someone like us, like you and me, Monica, and so many of our peers, where we're so driven and we're so focused that we're like, well, we're gonna fix this, right? So instead, we're not these shrinking violets. We're like, okay, well, here's a problem I'm in. Well, I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that, right? So it's complicated. It's complicated. It's not so easy to just leave. And again, we know that a woman's life is at the highest risk when she leaves.
And so when you chose to leave, for those of you that of our listeners that don't know your story, are you okay to talk about that time? Because I think that is a really important thing is number one, when you know that it's time for you to leave, when your life is in danger, it's life or death usually at that point. The little stones become bigger, bigger, bigger. At least they did with me, and it was life or death. And I know that was the same in your situation as well. And had we not actually had that conversation, we would have never understood how there are so many parallels into that. And I think that talking about those triggers or those things that people go, okay, I'm close to that now. I got to get out, but also be educated on knowing what you need to do when you do get out, because that's when you really need some support.
Well, you do need the support, and sometimes you don't know what the heck you're going to do, right? You may have no education, you may have no work history, you may have no family to lean on, you may have no home and no bank account. These aren't easy decisions. So people will stay for any number of reasons, but they may be staying because they're like, where am I going to sleep? What about my kids? I don't have a job, right? Like it's so to the best of your ability, you need to reach out to help, but it's so embarrassing and secretive that doing so is hard. So there are great social systems available. We're in Calgary, but there's great social systems available all over the country. So if you have one friendly person, and it could just be a friendly acquaintance from the playground or from school, or is there someone that can keep your kids safe and you safe, whether it's at a shelter or whether it's at a friend or family's home. It's complicated. Not everyone has the resources or even the friendly network or the English as a language skills to escape it. I was lucky enough to have an education. I was lucky enough to have a family that had been kind of like waiting in the wings for me. So I was scooped up. It didn't mean it was easy, but it was way easier than it is for so many. And neither break you or make you. And hopefully it's kind of a combination of you're broken and you're reborn, right? And that's how I've been treating the last 8.5 years of my life. Is I'm so freaking thankful every day that I get to go to work. I'm so excited that I get to exercise, I get to drive, I get to talk to friends, like all of these things that, you know, I'm like a tween or something. Like, really, I'm allowed to do that? So, yeah.
Well, and it's really a rebirthing. And I think that's, the road is really long. It's, to rebuild it doesn't happen overnight, but I really love to share, and talk to women who have taken the adversity and turned it into a gift. And that's what I think is so remarkable about your story. And you and I share that same, it's an ambition train. It's just like that resilience muscle is like, meet Mr. Muscle 1 and number 2, because really,
and like, no one's going to tell you that you can't, right? Like, now, game on.
yeah, it does build your character, builds your strength. And, I think that by more women kind of being open and talking like yourself about your experience in a non-judgmental way, enables somebody else to sort of open up and share their story, their experience, because you'd be surprised how many people in a room can put up their hand and say, I'm fine, but I'm really not fine. And I've experienced that.
Well, 2 of my files that I've worked on this year, my clients, were female physicians who made a lot of money, and they were in these terrible, terrible, frightening marriages, right? Like, it doesn't make sense, and yet it does. It's but it also, for me anyway, I don't know about you, you may have been fabulously empathetic before. I wasn't. I was kind of a jerk in my 20s, actually. Not such a jerk, but I just lacked the compassion that I have now, and I lacked the empathy I had now, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. And I would have been the terrible person that would have been like, oh, you're homeless, go get a job. Like, how awful is that, right? And I wouldn't have thought, well, maybe this person went through this adversity and this adversity and this adversity. So I think a big lesson learned for me, and a good takeaway, is it's made me certainly a lot more humble, a lot more empathetic, a better listener. So it's made me a better person, I hope.
And I think, and that's what the Nest Award is all for. And that was a special award, really, that we started doing almost from the beginning, certainly from 2017, was the Nest Award, and really to recognize the single moms, the women that have transformed their lives and really achieved success and are still working and giving back and supporting others. That's a very special award, and I just can't, I see that you're continuing to do it. You continue to raise the bar for women, Sarah. It's just incredible to watch and see how you continue to flourish day to day. So I do have to ask, so you and I both experience a court system, and I want to touch on that a little bit, because it is such a big issue. And you actually have a family member in the court system. And, so there's, where do we begin in sort of unpacking this? Because you leave an abusive relationship, then you get into the court system, and then the alienator targets you by taking away your kids. At least that's my case, parent alienation, which is not even on the radar where it should be right now. So the courts play a really important role in that, and it's very broken. So how are we supposed to make some change? What do you see?
You know what, I don't have the answer, but I am so alive to the problem, right? It's even when a woman is able to leave the marriage, there's still the issue of this power imbalance continues, right? And the power imbalance, unfortunately, continues to the spouse that can afford to keep paying a lawyer, right? And they will just out lawyer you, or they'll just break you down. And sometimes, a client I've been working with recently, she had been married for over 20 years, a traditional religious background where it was normal to get married right out of high school. never worked, no post-secondary. And then he decided he wanted to be married to someone else. And, the alienation that you're talking about had, rallied his late teenage kids to force the mom to sign everything over. Signed everything over. So she has no education. She's never worked. And now she just signed over and walked away from everything. And one of her friends reached out to me from Southern Alberta and said, can you help her? I'm like, yeah. So I do, like you, I do a lot of pro bono work. This woman can't pay me. I spend a lot of time telling women in particular to charge for their work, know your value. But a lot of times people just don't have access to the experts. So, I help as I can, I redirect as I can, but legal aid only goes so far and it's not always accessible. And there are some lovely, amazing lawyers that you and I know that also do pro bono work as they can, but there's only so much time and so many people to help. How we fix the system, I don't know. I don't know. Because I had, as you know, just wholly dying a heck of a time and finally just walked away because I couldn't afford to fight. I couldn't afford, not just financially, but emotionally, to fight anymore. And so I'll spend time walking women through the self-rep process to the best of my ability. And really, I'm just directing them to the website and the forums and what I think the process would be. And maybe you can talk to, like, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not giving legal advice. I'm just trying to guide someone to the best of my ability. And my role would be coming into, I do a lot of initial snapshots of, no, so-and-so doesn't make $10 a year based on this, this, and this. I'm pretty sure they make about 100, but, so I don't know how to fix the system. You've had a worse time than I have, but I see it all the time, just getting out lawyered and out litigated, and the self-reps can be challenging, and there can be collusion, there can be lying, there can be falsification of documents. It's all very complicated, and the courts need to care. And I think that the courts feel, I'm just guessing, rather overwhelmed by their workload as well, which has just increased. And do you get them on a good day or a bad day? I don't know.
Well, it's just something that as you experienced it and as you have it a lived experience, then you become knowledgeable to where the areas that are so broken. And unfortunately, you and I and those that have been through this tragic experience through the court system, I'm going on 14 years. I was married for 15 months, and now I'm a self-rep litigant for the past 7 years. I don't even talk about that. I guess it's over the bag now, but and I'm going to start using the platform now to talk more about it because it's tragic. It's shocking. And there's judges that have zero background, like mine, case managed with family law, that are making rulings based on your family law case that's very complex and very high conflict. So, I just want, just start the conversation because it's really important, and rallying around whoever we can to make changes to laws and government, I think is going to be our next step. Because our kids,
sometimes the lawyers themselves fuel the fighting, right? There are some very, very good lawyers. And then there's some that they don't need to see an end to this dispute because they can collect fees along the way. And that's not a jab at lawyers, because you'll find it with accountants, and you'll find it with mechanics, and you'll find it with, right? Like it's all people, all professions. It's going to be good and bad, but it's a frustrating, and you feel handcuffed to the system and you're just trying to get out of it.
I always, I had a conversation with someone where I was describing it to being like a boxing ring where, picture MGM Grand, a great big fight going on. But the difference is that one party's there to fight. The other one has to be in the ring, has no choice and no way out of that ring. And that's what the court system is.
Yeah,
There's
you're forced to
one party
respond.
that draws you in and you don't have an opportunity. You have to be able to defend yourself. There's no
Yeah.
option.
Well, and if you don't defend yourself, then you're automatically effectively found guilty of whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so we have more to
Anyway,
discuss here.
yeah.
And for those that are listening, that was just a little bonus rant. But you're talking with two
That's a quick
women
much to get me going.
that are very passionate about, making change, because it shouldn't be happening. And women were really at the mercy more times than often. And there are some men that have been involved, and it's the opposite, right? I'm not going to say that there are not men that have been involved, but primarily it's women that are experiencing this. So we will solve the world, not today, Miss Sarah, but I want to talk about you and what you do. When did you know that you would be, you're a problem solver, you're a strategic problem solver? When did you, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you knew that you wanted to do this profession when you were young?
No, I hadn't even heard of it. Insolvency, I hadn't heard of. So I started in nursing of all things. I only lasted a week in nursing. And when I realized I had to work in a hospital, and I was like, that's not what I signed up for. I signed up for shift work and global work and, great pay. I put no thought whatsoever into the actual job description. So that was short-sighted. So I didn't last in nursing. And then I did my first degree in humanities. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do whatever I'm interested in. So I did languages. I did German, Italian, French, philosophy, ancient history, religion. It was a lovely, lovely, useless degree, right? Like it was, I knew a lot and I could serve beer in 3 languages, but that was as much as it did for me outside of, I guess, expanding my mind. So then I was trying to decide between dentistry and being a chartered accountant. I, took an accounting course in my 3rd year university, and I was pretty good at it. But I thought, and anyway, ultimately I became a chartered accountant. So I became a chartered accountant and was going to practice in tax. That was what I was going to do. I was going to be a brilliant tax lawyer, and I was going to, finish my, it's called the CICA in-depth tax course, which is like a master's in law. And after that, one of the law firms in town in Calgary here would actually sponsor the CAs that were tax specialists to go through law school, and had an epically misogynistic, terrible interview. And I walked out of it. So I walked out of that interview with saying, thank you very much, Mr. So-and-so, peace out. And I walked out, and then I thought, what am I going to do with my life? Because this had been my focus for about 8 years. So I continued to practice in tax, and then I got introduced to insolvency in 2004. So in 2004, I started working in insolvency, which is like bankruptcy, receivership, proposals, when things go sideways and you have no money and the courts come in. So I did that for, ever since. About 4 years ago, what I kept on finding was I could only get paid if I was the trustee or the receiver, the bad guy, right? The bank would call and say, Sarah, Monica's company owes me money. So I'd be like, okay. And I would go over to your company and I'd fire everyone and I'd sell all your stuff and I'd lock the doors. And so no one wanted to meet me twice. If I was at your doorstep, we had a problem. And about 4 years ago, right after I finished my master's in law, I was thinking, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way. We can't just run through the court system and fire everyone and sell everything and kill this legacy. And there's families involved and there's creditors involved. And this is not a happy outcome. It's necessary sometimes. So I'm not slamming the whole insolvency community, but there's got to be another way. And my partner, Kent, who you've met, Kent Peters, is the Peters and Hawco Peters. He had been 20 years at RBC and was feeling the same way. So we came together to think, how do we help companies survive and individuals thrive? How do we fix the pain point? Because we don't need to just shut everyone down. How do we just go in as triage, figure out what went wrong, give the bank and the other creditors some comfort that, look, they've brought in some extra help. And that's what we've been doing the last 4 years or so, where I've only had to fire 2 people, and they were both thieves. I didn't feel badly firing them. They were stealing. So other than that, it's been great. And maybe I might have to come in and help them along and fix up their financial administration and management. And maybe they should stop building this widget because it's just not profitable, or maybe they're bidding wrong, or we'll go in, we'll find out what the problem is. We kind of fix them, bring in some new financing if required, typically it is. And then we, let them launch. So instead of killing the company, we're just kind of rejigging it and getting them set up for success. And it seems to be a win-win. The creditors are happy, the bank's happy, and the company and the business owners and employees and their kids, it doesn't mean it's an easy process, but it's a really good outcome. I feel good about what we're doing. And combined with that is I'm a certified fraud examiner as well. And I've done a handful of Ponzi schemes for the ASC or for various companies, and dealt with shareholder disputes and employee disputes and matrimonial disputes, lots of them. So I'll come in, and again, someone's got a pain point. Either someone's been wronged, or someone's misappropriated funds, or someone, so sometimes I'm kind of going in and trying to find the bad guy or gal, and just kind of going in and fixing problems. I'm in, I'm out, and I'm on my way.
That is such an exciting career. Like, I think it's incredible that you've carved such a niche in this area while still really saving, company with the goal of really wanting people to succeed, right? And making that not so scary for people. If you need help, call Sarah. She's here to help you, not help you go down the rabbit hole where you can't crawl out of, So I think that's such a positive way. And I know that you had mentioned divorce as well. I mean, that's 50% of the population. Do you think that's a big part of your business now? Has that become a big part, or is it still more corporate?
Yeah, no, it's a big part of it. I'd say I spend about half of my time on it. At least 50% of my time is on, we'll call it litigation support. And the litigation support, so one spouse or the other will come to me to try to help with an income determination or trace funds. Sometimes it's rather complicated, where one spouse has a number of companies or trusts or this and that going on. So trying to demystify everything and provide something that is understandable to both spouses, to both lawyers, and to a judge, and just trying to provide comfort around it and some compassion around it, right? Like, in everything I do, money's not my driver. It can't be my driver, because then I'm not feeling fulfilled, right? Like, that's not fun for me.
Yeah.
Solving these problems sometimes are big and complicated, and sometimes for me it's really, really easy. And I can fix someone's problem like this, or tell them what's going on, because I've been doing it for 25 years. But just having someone, whether it's, and this is for men and women, almost all of my corporate clients are men, and a handful of my litigation support are for men, because maybe it's an employee issue or a shareholder issue or partnership. Just having some compassion and understanding, and helping them feel empowered and heard.
Well, I have to give you extra kudos. I know that you're now a certified universal women-led company, with your partner, and what a beautiful synergy. We did an announcement a couple of weeks ago. And first time that I actually had an opportunity to meet your business partner, Kent. And I felt like I knew him before I met him, just because he's so involved in everything that you do and such a big champion and supporter of you. But I think when you're talking and speaking about that compassion for people and about what really makes your company succeed, is that it's not driven with the money, it's driven with the purpose. Would you agree that's like a secret sauce? Like, it's almost unheard of.
kind of my litmus test, and I don't know, it's not mine. Someone has said it a million times, is what would I be doing if I won the lottery and I had, $100 million, like more money than I could ever spend. And I'd be doing this, right? I might have a cleaning lady 5 days a week, but, and maybe a great vegan chef, but I'd be coming in the office every day still. Like Kent and I both love what we're doing. Like we love what we're doing. And I feel good about it. That was the problem when I was still working as a receiver and a trustee. I wasn't feeling good about what I was doing. I didn't think that, and I'm not saying they're doing the wrong thing. I didn't feel like I was doing the right thing because I thought there was a better solution that was more beneficial to all parties.
Super great. And I can just hear the silence as everybody's digesting all of the things that you're talking about, because it's not common sense for somebody to actually know that there's actually a person like yourself available to help support people through some of these most really tough times. And I got to say, who would like to say, I'm struggling financially, my company's struggling financially? That is not an easy pill to swallow. And to have somebody know that they actually care about you and wanting you to succeed is so important. And there's no judgment, because of course your story is you started rebuilding.
I've been homeless. I've had no money. I've had no car. Like, I'm with you, buddy. But we get it.
Yeah,
we get it.
Super powerful. So Sarah, I'm going to ask you as we sort of wrap up here, and I've got a couple questions, lots more, but just a couple I'm going to narrow it down to. Is what inspires you most about female leaders today?
About female leaders?
Yeah. What traits inspire you about other women leaders?
Well, it comes back to what I just mentioned, is compassion, collaboration, right? I find that the female leaders I know are wanting to embrace and support and help others rise. And that's a difference, right? So even think about when we started, I'll say we started 20 years ago, the stereotype was of the ball busting queen bee who just wanted to smush the other women because they broke through that glass ceiling. I don't get that sense anymore. I feel that our peer group in particular, and even younger, and there's some fabulous ones older, they want to work together. They have a patience and a strategic ability to think through the problems, to scan the lay of the land. I think that my experience with women is that they're less likely to let their ego get in the way, sometimes to a fault, right? So much so that they may let others steal their thunder or make a decision that we're like, I don't think that's right. We're more likely to suffer from imposter syndrome, which we're all, coming out of, I think, or at least I feel like I've come out on the other side of earning my seat at the table. So the female leaders just bring so much strength and a dynamic nature, right? And holy cow, can we do a lot of stuff, right?
We can drive change, as we're going to do real shortly here, like literally drive change with the 2021 roadshow going across Canada, with, a cement truck. What does it feel like for you? I mean, as a change maker, standing in your power, how does it feel to be involved in a project like that, where your actual
my face going across North America? I keep seeing Spot the Track, and I'm like, hey.
Like, how does that feel? Because I find, Sarah, and you can talk to me about it, but women have a hard time stepping into the spotlight.
No, not me.
Good. Yes.
And you know what? I didn't have any mentors when I was in my early 20s. I didn't have any mentors when I was young and just starting out. And now with you creating this platform, especially, I think that women were there and probably were available to me. I just didn't know who they were or where they were or how to do it. And you're giving women the opportunity to be mentors and to be mentored, right? And a common problem that we have as female leaders is that we think we're all alone all the time because we're working so darn hard. We're head down, head down, head down. And then, well, now I got to go be a parent, and now I got to go be a volunteer, and now I need to go do this. So we lack the inherent network that may have been traditionally available outside of COVID times to the boys, right? At the bar, the golf course, or this and that. So you've created a community and made it accessible for anyone to come in. And that's a big difference. So young women are seeing themselves in, me being an older woman, and also men are seeing women being leaders, right? And I don't think that it's a weird thing for a man in his 20s to have a female boss, right? Like I don't think there's that tension. And my partner Kent and I are the same age, and well, he's 2 years older, but he's never treated me in any other way other than being an equal, or maybe even better, just because he's that kind of awesome guy. But,
so that's going to lead me to this next question here is, why is it so important? Or number one, who are your male support hers and allies? Because of course, the support hers are men that are champions in your networks, workplaces, and communities. So that's the first question. And then why is it so important that we bring men to the conversation to champion for women?
Well, Kent, of course, is my number one support her because we spend most of our time together, and this is our business front and our livelihood. My boyfriend Pete is a great support her who just wants nothing more than to see me soar and fly and be all the awesome that is possible, right? He's got no ego whatsoever when it comes to that. I don't have a ton of other support hers, I gotta tell you, but I'm working on it. I've had some that I thought I had throughout my career, and when push came to shove, it wasn't quite there. So I'm unfortunately a bit mistrustful of some of the fakers out there because actions will speak louder than words. Anyway, but I think it's important that men come to the table because that's the only way to affect change. This isn't, we can't do it on our own. It's a societal issue. It's misogyny just under the surface, right? It is words mattering. It is the treatment of females in all environments, and making, the men have to stand up. You and I can't stand up and complain about a sexual, ridiculous, inappropriate comment. I mean, we'll say something and then we'll be like, see, they're hysterical, they're so sensitive. Whereas if a man is saying, no, that's not the right thing, guys, the change has to happen concurrently and together because we can't do it on our own.
Well, I love your authenticity around that. Yes. So if you have two support hers, you're winning. And for those, I think for the Kents and the Petes in the world, it's up to our support hers to lead by example, to raise the bar for the others to follow. Because I certainly do agree and subscribe to that nobody's going to want to do business with them, work with them, work for them. You want to be involved with people that want others to rise and to be champions for each other. And I think, focus on the positive, let the negative fall to the ground. We'll focus on the positive always. But
and I will interject just for a moment,
yes,
because now I'm feeling a bit of a jerk for saying I have no other support hers. Many, many, many of my clients are all men who have come out and reached out to me intentionally, to me, and not Kent. And that doesn't, and tons of people reach out to Kent. But if I'm the point of contact, then these are men and decision maker men who trust and support me in that way. So they're support hers, right?
Absolutely. And that's what we're driving. And we're going to talk about that on the roadshow is let's talk about the male champions, because they do bring value to the table to help and support and help us move the mountains. So you're when they listen to this, they'll like, thank you, Sarah. I'll call you Friday.
Like, you jerk. Yeah. So
anyways, it's been a pleasure having you. This would not be a Woman of Inspiration podcast without asking you what your definition of a woman of inspiration is, Sarah.
Oh gosh, I would have written this down if I had the heads up. A woman of inspiration. I actually think a woman of inspiration is someone who completely lives in alignment with their values, whatever those values are, but living in alignment, walking the talk, right? We can all yap away. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you in alignment and consistent with your language and your words and your actions? Are those consistent? And are you able to use your privilege, however big or small it may be, to help raise others? That's a woman of inspiration. You don't have to overcome this ridiculous adversity that you and I may have had, right? It's not some badge of honor. You don't need to be a victim to be a hero. But are you doing your best to do your best?
Amazing. And you didn't write that down. That is completely unscripted. And boy, that's powerful. So thank you for sharing that. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, who is a woman that inspires you, Sarah?
Oh gosh, so many women that inspire me. Lindsay Mincher, love her. She's a family lawyer in town. Megan Cotterill, my favorite ninja. She was a 2020 woman of inspiration. Karen Fellows is just killing it in the insolvency world. She was a 2020 woman of inspiration as well. She's so fabulous. And you want to talk about raising other women up. She's our gal. I don't know who else. We love Pink and Glennon Doyle, of course, because we want to all be goddamn cheetahs. My daughters are, young women of inspiration who see no barriers to entry based on gender or sexual preference, or they're just so, tweeny teeny, right? Like it wouldn't even occur to them that they can't be anything in the world they want. And that's fun. And I see young men, my nephews, who just or Megan's son, or just these young men coming up as well, who just believe with every grain of their being that of course women are equal and amazing and should be business owners and professionals. Like, why wouldn't they? And I find that inspiring. So there's so many.
Beautiful. And I love the fact, I know that we're just wrapping up here and you have a meeting to go to, but for the listeners, you had shared a really great story where it's really because you're such a great role model to them, that they had no idea that doctors and professionals could actually be men, because all of Mom's network, they were all women.
My dentist is a female, my lawyer is a female, my advisors are female, so
I think that's where it starts, is by role modeling such beautiful leadership and really aligning with values, which you do such a beautiful part doing, Sarah. And I just want to say it's been such a pleasure. It's always such a pleasure chatting with you. 3 words that were asked to describe you were grateful, active, and motivated. I would also add, if there was a 4th one, you're super ambitious and super inspiring. And it's been a real pleasure being on this journey with you. And we're so proud to have you part of our network and be on this great big journey with us through the 2021 Roadshow and the book coming up and the change and the impact we're going to make together.
And I'm grateful to be part of this journey and this community you've created. You inspire me. I love your hustle. I love it. And you are certainly walking the talk. So thank you.
Well, much love to you. And so the listeners, if they want to dive in and someone they know personally, or someone in their network needs your help and support, how can they get a hold of you?
they can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Hawco, Hawco. That's probably the easiest way. Or our website is Hawco Peters, Hawco Peters.com. Or I don't know, I'm pretty easy to find, Monica.
And you also give hotshot fitness classes. How many fitness classes did you do last year, and amongst balancing all of that? Because we've got
I did.
fitness.
I know from COVID March to March, I did about 530 fitness classes. I know. I've scaled back. I'm down to 7 a week. I teach 7 fitness classes a week now. Yeah.
Okay, so now the mouths are dropping. For everybody listening or watching, they're going, when do you sleep? But seriously, you do lead by example, Sarah. You're just a
tight calendar. Don't mess with my calendar. That's all.
Super exciting. You have so much to share. We look forward to speaking with you again and again. If you did enjoy this Woman of Inspiration podcast, please share it with all of your friends, subscribe, and learn all about the Universal Women's Network, because we do have memberships where you too could belong to a community of women that are dynamic and empowering and drive change. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Miss Sarah Hawco, who is the co-founder and a certified Universal Woman-led company owner with Hawco Peters and Associates. So thank you again, Sarah.
Thanks, Monica. Bye.
Bye.